Hi Megan, so I am in Athens. I'll insert a thing of my view right now. I'm in roughly the same spot that I filmed the last day of work video 2 summers ago when I was last here. And I just wanted to talk to you briefly, do a sort of recap of our trip, and then just talk about traveling in general for me. The day after you left on Friday, I initially tried to sort of film the places that I was going to take you along with me, but I just failed at that because my phone was dying and I just had too much to do, so I kept forgetting until I was leaving the place that I should have filmed. So that day was really great. I did a lot of stuff. There are a few things that I really wish that we had done together, which is a bummer, but we couldn't have fit them in, so it's fine. And to sort of use this as a segue into my discussion on travel, so Friday I walked 15 miles, which is a little bit more than we had been walking together. We would walk on average of 8 to 9 miles a day. That day I walked 15. To be fair, I had a lot of things that I wanted to do as my last day, so I was trying to check things off, so I was pretty motivated. But also that sort of speaks to the fact that when you're by yourself, you aren't negotiating with your companion, and so you just go. And that is a pro and con to both things. You know, a lot of beautiful, wonderful decisions and experiences happen when you're traveling with a companion that wouldn't happen when you're just traveling by yourself, because you don't have someone else to sort of sway you and to bounce things off of. I really liked our trip. I thought it was really good. You never really know what to expect when traveling with somebody, just because traveling, it's a totally different experience, and it brings out a lot of different things and people. And I've never traveled with just one person for such an extended period of time. And also I've never traveled with someone that I was such good friends with before the trip. Other people that I've traveled with around Greece have been people that I had recently met and become friends with, and then we traveled. So it was a new experience for me, for sure. And it was really lovely. I also hope, however, that that sort of trip for you, that was sort of outside your comfort zone in terms of not having been heavily planned in advance and all these things, is something that would potentially make you more likely or interested or comfortable in traveling by yourself someday. Because I think that traveling by myself is one of the most fulfilling things that I do. I love traveling with other people to be able to share experiences with them and have these shared memories that we made and collected together, and when you're remembering those things, to have someone else to remember with it makes the whole experience vivid all over again. But there is something about traveling by myself that is really, really good for me, and it kind of has to do with my anxiety. In my normal life, you know, in Fairfax or in Cincinnati, sometimes there are decisions like getting up and going to the grocery store, or just getting up, period, that seem life-shatteringly insurmountable. But when you're traveling by yourself, you have to make decisions and you have to go. And you're out there and there is nothing for you to do but just go. And maybe it's sort of just the most extreme way of dealing with that for me, because I feel so much more comfortable in a city that I've never been to, with a language that I don't know, getting up and going out and finding a grocery store than I oftentimes do in Cincinnati, driving to a grocery store that I go to every Sunday. There's just this degree of self-sufficiency and independence and just competence as a person that I derive from traveling by myself that I really, really value. I kind of was talking about that when I walked to get you at the train station, but it reminds me that I am like a functioning person, more than a functioning person, which is important. And I do think that I, kind of like how I'm sometimes a little bit extreme and maybe even like an adrenaline junkie to an extent. I think that this is like kind of along the same lines, where like by forcing myself into such an extreme position of being alone and like having to take care of myself in a place that is unfamiliar, that's where I feel the most comfortable, and that's where I feel the most myself. Something that I think is important in all of life, but especially when traveling, is that you feel safe and you feel comfortable. And obviously those are things that change dramatically between people and circumstances, etc. And so when you're traveling with someone else, the negotiation for that is constantly navigating each other's comfort zones and choosing to do things that, work with both of those things. But when you're traveling by yourself, you're constantly negotiating those things, but for yourself. So it's a constant learning process, learning about your comfort zone as it relates to other people, learning about the comfort zone of your companion, and then when you're with yourself, learning and relearning about your comfort zones and situations. I certainly am comfortable doing things traveling now that I would not have been comfortable with 2 or 3 years ago, and it's just because I continue to renegotiate with myself what I am okay with and what I am not. And I think that is really the most valuable thing about traveling, is it forces you to think about these things and think about yourself and how you are interacting with this world that you are an outsider in, and what you learn about yourself, especially and as it relates to this world, I think is like the most valuable thing. And so what I hope from our trip is that you liked and have learned about traveling in a context that was not as sort of structured as you were used to, and I hope that you would want to do it again. And also I do hope that it has brought you perhaps a little bit closer to wanting to travel by yourself, because I think that both of those things, traveling with people and by yourself, are really excellent ways to get to know yourself better in ways that can only happen and are only afforded to you when you're traveling. I think that's all. I'm gonna maybe go try and edit this before I head back to the airport. But I'll see you later, and I am greatly looking forward to DJ Kinky-Boots takes TBD, whenever that may be. Alright, see you later. Bye. I forgot to mention, so the view from the rooftop of my hostel is incredible, and this morning I woke up and I went upstairs and just sat on the roof and looked out, and the sun was beaming down, and I was listening to Deeper by Ella Eyre, and just the sheer bliss and contentment that I felt to be back in this city was unreal. It's so good to be back. Bye.